Hello, Jason Robertson here, and I'd like to take this opportunity at the invitation of the AGTCM Germany and especially the ABZ MITTE School in Frankfurt to talk about a series of seminars we'll be doing combining online and in-person training over the next year. This entire series is going to be translated into German, and the online portion will be live, and we'll have lots of chances to interact with each other from the comfort of your own homes this coming fall and winter of 2020. So starting this coming September, and details, by the way, are on this website, you can see more, but starting this coming September, we're going to begin a 5-part series. And the first part will be, and each of the first 4 parts, in fact, will be 2 mornings for me in Seattle, 2 evenings for you there if you're in Germany, on a Sunday and a Monday, where we'll get together for 4 hours each time. And I want to go through an approach to teaching applied channel theory. That's 经络医学, which is the approach to acupuncture, the current of thinking in acupuncture, developed by my teacher, Professor Wang Juyi. And I'd like to go through it in the way a little bit more like he taught it, kind of in a dialogue form, in a slow motion form, with time for students to digest the information as they go, to re-watch the videos from our discussions of those first 4 classes. And so those first 4 classes will be going through each of the 6 channels, the Liu Jing, and talking about the physiology of those channels and how the organs within those physiological systems work together, either synergistically or in a balancing act, and also common pathomechanisms of those particular channels. And then very interestingly, going through some of the point combinations, the clinical strategy used by Professor Wang Juyi and by me in my clinic here in Seattle, Washington in the United States, combining palpation with 6-channel theory. And so that is really the big picture of what I want to get through. And it's the big thing that Dr. Wang would often have groups of students come to Beijing back in the early 2000s, and I would be translating for him. And we would spend 2 weeks together with Dr. Wang lecturing in the morning, talking about the 6 channels, talking about the nature of the channels, the nature of points, the nature of point location. And then we would have these kind of relatively leisurely discussions, and then we'd have lunch, and we'd come back, and in the afternoons we'd practice point location, or we'd see a patient. We're going to do something like that in this group, in that these first lectures will be relatively short 4-hour events where you can have time to think, and we'll spread them out so you have time to digest in between, and there'll be time for questions and answers from the students. But then eventually, by the time we get through the 4th lecture, the 4th 2-day lecture that we're going to do, we now have room for the 5th event, and the 5th event is going to be next summer, 2021, in Frankfurt, Germany. There we'll meet, and we'll go back over a lot of the points we've discussed very, very carefully, going through palpation of the channels for diagnosis. And that's the other big part of what Wang Juyi wanted to teach. There's so much of his information that maybe even some of you have seen in his book that's theoretically beautiful and extremely clinically interesting and clinically valuable, I'll tell you. But if you don't combine that with a hands-on palpatory technique, if you don't get your hands in the channels and the precise fascial pathways that Dr. Wang looked for, then a lot of this information is not as easy to use. So that's what I want to get together and do, is go through all the channels, palpating them one by one, practicing locating all of the points that we talked about in the previous 4 sessions, exactly how Dr. Wang did so. So really working on point location. And then in the later afternoons of each of those 4 days, we're going to meet together in Frankfurt. I want to treat a patient, or even 2, talking about my clinical reasoning, talking about how I come to the diagnostic conclusion I come to, weaving, hopefully, on the good days at least, palpation with channel theory physiology, coming up with a diagnosis for that patient on that day at that time, creating, hoping to, showing you guys how to cultivate that skill to create individualized treatments on that day with that patient that then you have to reevaluate each time, so that every acupuncture treatment you do is no longer dependent on protocols or secrets from teachers, but instead you have a living, moving system in your mind that allows you to innovate in the clinic. As new illnesses come up, you have a diagnostic paradigm. You have the principles in your mind, the principles of function, Li, and when you have those, then Fa, the methods of treatment, flow right out of them. And so we're going to talk also, of course, about concepts from classical Chinese medicine, classical Chinese terms, and we'll go through some of the etymology of these terms and how they've been thought of by acupuncturists over the centuries. It's really going to be a lot of fun, and it's a really rare situation. In fact, the first time we've done this combination of an online series with an in-person live event. And I think this is the way to really thoroughly get into the information of applied channel theory. So if you're interested, email the school. If you'd like some more information from me, email me. There'll be contact information here. And I look forward to seeing you all starting this fall, September 2020, where I will be in my clinic in Seattle and you'll be in your homes, and we'll begin a discussion together about acupuncture, channel theory, and especially diagnosis and clinical application. So thank you guys very much, and I look forward to seeing some of you then. And have a good evening or day wherever you are. Thanks. Bye.